discussing the implications of the United States President Joe Biden's decision to withdraw the American troops from Afghanistan. This decision, when implemented, will mean the end of America's war on terror against non-state actors such as the Taliban in Afghanistan. There are 3,000 odd American troopers and around 8,000 odd NATO soldiers in Afghanistan today. They will all exit Afghanistan by September 11, a day that will mark 20 years of the Twin Towers terror attacks of 2001. To discuss these issues, we have two eminent thinkers today joining us. I would like to welcome Major General Neeraj Bali. He is a retired Indian Army officer. In his 4-decade military service, he has gained vast experience in counterinsurgency operations and in intelligence gathering. He has operated as part of the Indian Army in Jammu and Kashmir and in the northeast of India. General Bali is a Sena Medal awardee for gallantry. He is the founder of and the CEO of Landscape Advisors, a consulting firm focused on leadership training. Welcome, General Bali, to this discussion. I'm happy to have you here on the show today.
Thank you.
The other and the most important speaker of the day is Ambassador Vishnu Prakash. He's a retired Indian Foreign Service officer. He's also a law graduate, incidentally, if I may say. In his 3.5 years decade diplomacy career, he has efficiently served as India's ambassador to South Korea and as the High Commissioner to Canada, both very important positions as far as this present Modi government is concerned. And of course, he served in the UK government also as ambassador to South Korea. I may correct myself there. Most importantly, he has served as India's spokesperson in the Ministry of External Affairs, a very important role. He is actually the government of India's spokesperson at that point in time when he deals with diplomatic matters. In his role as the spokesperson, he has gained insights into India's thinking on Afghanistan. That is precisely why we invited him to join this show today. He has in-depth knowledge on the subject, and his role as the spokesperson also demanded that he has a great understanding of the subject because he had to deal with the media at that point of time. Welcome, Ambassador Vishnu Prakash. I'm so happy to have you here and to reconnect with you after your retirement from service. To discuss the subject first, let me go to Ambassador Vishnu Prakash. Sir, considering that there has been talk of American withdrawal from Afghanistan for a decade or so now, since the Obama administration's time, but that never really came to that. If you see, even during Obama's regime, the announcement was made, but ultimately they didn't exit at that point in time. The partial withdrawal did happen. Do you think the withdrawal of troops from Afghanistan, as announced by Joe Biden this time, will really happen? What is your opinion on that, sir?
Well, first of all, greetings and nice to reconnect with you. Nice to be on the show with you. I wish you had told your audience also that one reason you invited me is that you and I have the similar hairstyle. So that was yet another reason. And you make me sound as if, I've hung my boots. I have not. I continue to create problems for all and sundry. So that is my introduction. But yes, I think that the D-Day is really arriving. I think that the US is fatigued after 20 years of conflict, which has taken a huge toll, to some $2 trillion in terms of cost. 160,000 odd people have lost their lives, including American troops. It has taken a very heavy toll. And what has led to it is instability, violence, bloodshed. They are nowhere near solving the problem. So, and President Biden, as vice president, also was always opposed to a bigger presence of the US. He was wanting. He had, whenever there was a question of surge, he had opposed it. And by the way, this process started under President Trump. And what President Biden is doing is to bring it to a fruition. So I'm afraid we are seeing the withdrawal of the US. Already half of the troops have been withdrawn, and the other half are likely to go back home on or before the 1st of September.
Again, Ambassador Vishnu Prakash, just want to understand, February 2020 Doha Accord by the Trump administration, which you rightly referred to, started the process. This accord that was clinched with Taliban to withdraw. Do you think this decision was good in the context of the region itself, not just the American? For the Americans, it is obviously is very good, but is it good for the region? What's your opinion on that, sir?
Well, I am afraid it's not good for anybody other than Taliban and other than their patrons called Pakistan. It may or may not be good for the US because we are literally back to square one, or even worse than that, because this time Taliban is coming back triumphant. They believe that they have managed to uproot or to neutralize the world's biggest power. So they will be on a high. And if they are back to their good old ways, I think it will be difficult for everybody. But there is only this much that a nation can do, and not more. I hold no brief for the US, but the fact remains that they started the Iraq conflict, and which distracted their attention, which is a part of history. And now Taliban controls half of the region area in Afghanistan. Their power is growing by the day, and I think we are in for a difficult period. We will see a lot of instability, and yes, nations will are taking note of the fact that there will be violence, there will be disturbance, and the fundamentalism or Islamic fundamentalism that Taliban stands for again will get to the fore.
Okay, General Bali, yes, the forces are withdrawing, which is quite obvious. What do you think would be the immediate military and geopolitical implications of this move by the Americans beyond inside Afghanistan, and of course for the region itself? Will this emerging situation bode well for India?
Well, let me begin by completely endorsing what the ambassador just said about the fact that this time the die seems to be cast. It seems to be set in cement. There is going to be a withdrawal. There are other indications that there would be a withdrawal for sure, in spite of some security analysts saying that if there is a great terrorist attack in the meanwhile, then there may be a little change, but I absolutely doubt that. I don't think Taliban have any interest whatsoever in upsetting this wonderful cart that has been set for them. The fact of the matter is that all the violence that has happened in Afghanistan since Doha, which has got exacerbated in some ways, is all directed at civilians. Nothing has been done against the US forces. It gives us the clearest possible indication that the Taliban are facilitating, and are more than happy that the US make its withdrawal quickly and swiftly. And there are no spectacles, those unseemly spectacles of US troops being lifted off the rooftops by helicopters anymore. So they are facilitating. In fact, Al-Qaeda has also gone on and said, we support the Doha Accord. So to that extent, what Ambassador Prakash said is absolutely on the dot. As far as the geopolitical conditions are concerned, the implication for us are concerned, I once again agree, there is no wonderful way to look at it. Whatever is emerging, the return of Taliban, their triumph, the lack of any evidence whatsoever that they have changed their minds or hearts since they were last in power in 2001, the fact that many of them have been incarcerated in Guantanamo Bay and therefore would be carrying the scars and the trauma of what went on there, the fact that they are winners, there is zero leverage anybody has with them anymore, gives us the dark conclusion that geopolitically this is not going to be good for us. It's not going to be good for many, but definitely it is not going to be good for us. As a matter of fact, for whatever little influence we have in Afghanistan today, I think we are imminently at the edge of losing that particular influence. So that's my view as far as the broad overview of what I think.
Okay, Ambassador Prakash, India has pledged about $3 billion development aid to Afghanistan. Is already working on various projects, including the recently announced Satut Dam project. And previously, India-Afghanistan Friendship Dam, also known as the Salma Dam, was completed at an estimated cost of 300 million in 2016. India has also built a 218-kilometer road from Dilaram to Zarajin in Afghanistan, where it also lost men due to terror attacks that has happened on that project. How do you think India can protect its military, strategic, and economic interests in Afghanistan at this point in time, post the US withdrawal scenario? What is your thinking on that?
I think that's a very, very pertinent question. But before that, I must say that the very pertinent points made by General Bali are something that I completely endorse. In that, the Taliban will now be buoyant, will be triumphant, will be harboring bitterness, and will be vengeful. So, and that practically no country, and I would dare say even Pakistan would have a limited leverage over them. So yes, that is true. The only bit that I'm hoping against hope, I'm not sure, is whether Taliban will factor in the aspect that for 20 years they were in the wilderness, and if they continue with their the old bad ways, will they again have a problem? So if that weighs in, which is not very likely, then it may bring about a bit of a change. But coming back to the question that you are asking is, fortunately, what we have done in terms of infrastructure building is something that the Afghan people wanted, Afghanistan wanted, regardless of the political color. You mentioned Salma Dam, and Salma Dam brings power to and electricity to Kabul, or the parliament building that you refer to, or the road that you refer to, or so these are non-partisan projects. These are not glamour projects. These are not projects where money has been siphoned off. So India has invested in these projects as per the wishes of the people of Afghanistan, and we have lost our lives in the bargain. So I don't think that those projects will be affected, or those not projects, those will be affected, or the small development projects. Now that gives me a little hope that the Taliban would want that to continue, because we are not doing it with a ulterior motive. Our motive is simply to see Afghanistan stable and in a position to take care of itself. So that I think is a positive factor. But the problem will be there'll be other difficulties. Taliban will try, I'm sure, to lessen India's influence, cultural influence in particular, as they did during the other previous regime. They may target people of Indian origin. I think they will not allow the consulates to continue, even if we have diplomatic relations. But I guess you have no choice, because, you have to deal with whosoever is in power. That's realpolitik. And we are not naive at all about what Taliban stands for. But therein lies the skill that, everybody shakes hands with the friend. But when you have an adversary, you have to shake hand twice while counting your fingers and making sure that that things do not happen, or at least try to see that things do not happen in a way that you do not want them to happen.
Okay, so General Bali,
May I just jump in for a minute?
Please, of course, please go ahead and do that, please.
Once again, I think every word that has just been said rings true. I just want to add a little to it that there is a hope among some Western analysts that when the US withdraws, it's only withdrawing militarily, and it will continue to exert some sort of influence. What that influence is going to be, how it will shape Taliban, nudge Taliban, is anybody's guess. But the thinking is that maybe the US is now in a position to leverage via IMF and so many other things to push Pakistanis to make sure that the Taliban behave in a certain way and they don't step out of certain limits. Because imagine if beheadings start, stoning of women starts all over again, it's terrible optics for the US and the present president, not just domestically, where the Republicans will take him to the cleaners, but also in the rest of the world. I mean, here is NATO. I heard the Secretary General say 2 days ago on BBC that we have global interests and we are going to protect global interests and we are going to stand up to China, etc., etc. How will you do that if you're not able to push Afghanistan into a certain way? But having said that, the problem is that the Taliban also wouldn't need Pakistan all that much. They required them as safe havens. The problem of safe havens is over. The country is there. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't be surprised if in 10, 20 years from today, they start eyeing Pakhtunistan as part of their NWFP as part of their country. So therefore, I agree that we are not in a great place as far as this is concerned. And much as it sounds like a pie in the sky, I believe we've got to open communication with Taliban, no matter how long it takes, no matter how hard and steep that mountain is, but that needs to be climbed. Realpolitik is the word the ambassador used, absolutely right. Sometimes we have not been indulging in that, as we see how we behaved in Africa vis-a-vis China, but we should move in that direction. I think that's one probably the only way to protect our interest. As far as our projects are concerned, once again, I completely agree, whether it's the Salma Dam or the Shatut Dam or the highway that you mentioned or the parliament, etc. These are great projects. There is a great deal of affection in Afghanistan for us. It's genuine affection. And that soft power can well remain in the minds and hearts of the people. But culturally, unless we display ourselves in a different light, we are at complete contradiction with what the Sharia that the Taliban will impose. And therefore, they wouldn't like to look bad by just falling in line with us. It's a very tall order and a very high mountain to climb.
Yeah, in fact, that was the question I was asking you right here. But there is one more small detail that General Bali, I would like you to, tell our viewers. India participated in the intra-Afghan talks that was held in Doha in September 2020, where a large contingent of Taliban participated. And obviously, there must have been interaction between the Taliban representatives and the Indian representatives there in Doha. So, do you see a shift that is happening? Since you are recommending that India needs to talk more with the Taliban, start talking with Taliban in the coming days, because earlier the Indian stand was that it would deal with the civilian administration there, be it Amit Karzai's or the current Ashraf Ghani government there. So, what has changed? If you could just explain that to our viewers.
You see, quite obviously, I neither have any great insight into Indian intelligence, what they do, or definitely not what the Foreign Service does at the highest levels. I'm just another guy reading newspapers and gaining my knowledge. But the fact of the matter is that for years and years and decades, we have said we will only talk to the Afghan government and they are the only legitimate party to talk to. Things seem to have shifted in our own minds, because Mr. Jaishankar in Tajikistan said that we support talks between the Afghan government and the Taliban. We are the ones who are signaling a change. Whether there is a change from the Taliban side, I have no evidence at all to say that there is a change. Sure, they would have met in the corridors and they would have been Assalamu alaikum. But beyond that, whether there is a change from the side of the Taliban, I doubt it very much. Having said that, there are very many prominent Afghan analysts, speakers, thinkers who are pro-India. For example, I'm just going to quote one guy called Amal Faizi, who's an Afghan journalist and an ex-director of communication to the former president of Afghanistan, Hamid Karzai. He said India should be focused on the entire Afghan polity, not particular groups. That's his advice, right? Because everybody sees the writing on the wall. But to answer your question, I think I've answered your question like a bad student. I've said everything other than saying what the Taliban are going to do. The answer is I don't know. I don't think so. I don't see any evidence of change.
Ambassador Vishnu Prakash, would you like to jump in there and give us some insight on what has changed, if at all anything has changed in the Indian approach towards Taliban?
Well, if I were to put it lightly, as in simple words, nothing has changed in that India remains engaged with Afghanistan. Now, if foreign policy, international relations is a dynamic concept. It's not a static concept. When you take a position, it reflects the reality of that moment. As they say in diplomacy, there are no full stops. There are only commas and semicolons. Now, it's a necessity today to engage with Taliban because they are quite likely to come to power. So we have two choices. Either we leave the field open to our adversaries and other players who have inimical designs towards India, or we at least keep a line of communication open. We are not being naive, we are being practical. Now, having Taliban with whom we do not have any line of communication will only adversely impact our interests. At least here, once we have a line of communication, there could be some infrastructure projects we can do. We can communicate with them. We can take up certain issues. There'll be at least it will moderate to a limited extent their attitude towards India. But we are very clear, there is no good Taliban, there is no bad Taliban, there is Taliban and which has only one outlook. So that is what we'll have to do because the implications of Taliban's return are significant for not just the subcontinent, but for beyond the subcontinent. And it is important that we stay engaged.
Okay, sir.
Bipinbhai, if I may just say something,
Yes, sir, please. Go ahead.
See, I for one, as a layman, don't think that we should bank too much on our allies all the time. We should do our own heavy lifting. But having said that, we do have some leverage with US. The US is keen that we stay engaged and involved in Afghanistan. In March 2021, there was a conference on Afghanistan in Russia, where the participants were the Taliban, the China, Pakistan, and USA. We were not there. So I think we should try to use whatever leverage we have to apply all solutions to open the lines of communication with Taliban. And like the ambassador said, maybe we can offer infrastructure help, maybe we can offer some other help. But we should make a beginning because, status quo is obviously neither practiced in diplomacy nor is desirable. And if you mentioned to me that you read my article in Financial Express, where I had copy pasted somebody else's quote. It's my favorite quote. Some people love status quo long after quo has lost all status. Now we don't want to be those people. We don't want to be those people, right? So we want to move ahead. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Can I?
Yes,
for
sir,
a
please.
second. I'm afraid that the US will lose a lot of influence and leverage now. And the assurances that are being meted out that they will stay engaged or they will conduct military strikes, air strikes, etc. I will not read much into them. But there are some reports that US is looking at staging facilities in Pakistan again. Now, if that is the case, it will have an impact. But yes, I do agree that we are literally on our own when it comes to Afghanistan now. And our proximity or friendship with the US will not help us, will in fact be read against it, would be seen against us. But there could be some commonality of ground with Iran, because Iran has similar concerns as India has. But Pakistan, China, and to an extent Russia will have their own outlook, which may or may not be similar to ours.